Hello.
Hello.
Who are you?
Me, I'm Simon Wells, voiceover extraordinaire. Who are you?
I'm not Simon Wells. I am voiceover extraordinaire, but I'm not Simon Wells. I'm Bruce Fielding. Hello.
Oh, you're that voiceover extraordinaire.
That one, yeah.
Marvellous.
Yeah. What are we doing here?
Well, at the moment we are currently both sitting here in our little isolated recording booths with our beautiful silky voices. But on this particular occasion, we're not doing voiceover for the sake of voiceover. No, no, no.
Oh, no.
On this occasion, we are here to present another fascinating, fun episode of Factoraly.
So, Simon, what should we tell the listeners about what Factoraly is?
The Factoralites.
The Factoralites. I love that expression. I've had 2 or 3 people come up to me and go, I'm a Factoralite.
Oh, brilliant.
It's really
it's
good.
spreading.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
beginning to spread.
It is. Fantastic.
Congratulations. So, for those who are not yet Factoralites, this is a weekly podcast with 2 English voiceover artists who happen to really love facts, random, useless trivia.
Oh, yeah.
We pick a subject each week, which on the face of it may seem quite mundane and void of interestingness, but you scratch under the surface and it turns out there's an awful lot of interesting facts to be had. So Bruce and I sit here and we chat for half an hour or so about the subject, and all of you lot, you get to listen.
And learn, and have dinner party conversation, and things to impress your friends with.
But you've got the kind of friends who will also be listening to it, so actually it'll be fine.
Yes, quite. Exactly. So every week we take a subject. This week, what's the subject this week, Simon?
Well, this week we've gone for fishing.
We've gone
fishing. There's a sign upon our door.
It's a big subject, fishing, though, isn't it?
It is, yes. This seems to be happening quite a lot recently. We pick something that seems quite niche and concise, and you start poking at it, and goodness me, there's hours and hours and hours of material, and it's our job to try and cut it down a little bit.
Well, I guess the reason there's so much about it is that I think it's still the most popular pastime in the UK.
It seems to be. Tell you what, let's start off with that. Is it a pastime that you yourself enjoy?
No, although I have been to Scotland and I can what they call spey cast.
You can spey cast?
I can spey cast. I don't know if you know what spey casting is.
I don't. Please tell me.
When you normally cast a lure, you kind of flick it behind you and then forward.
Yes.
On the spey, there's trees behind you, so you can't flick it behind you because you'll get caught up in the trees.
Oh.
So this is kind of like a figure of 8 that you do in front of you.
Yes, okay.
To get things out, and then you flick it, and you get where you want to be.
Yeah,
but
in a different way.
The only thing I'm a very accurate spey caster.
Are you?
And I've never done it in a river.
Okay.
The only reason I know, because I can get it exactly into the middle of the rubber tire in the playground that we've basically been practicing in.
How wonderful!
Isn't that great? So you go to Scotland, you go to a park, they give you a rod, and you basically spey cast into a rubber tire.
That's brilliant.
And I can do that every time.
Congratulations.
The gilly was very impressed.
Now all you need to do is actually do it in a river and get some fish.
And try and get some fish. Yeah, no, I have never. My dad never fished. I never fished.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's like to handle a live fish.
Exactly the same here. I have never had any fisher-type people around me. I've never been inclined to go fishing. I eat fish. I think fish is delicious. I think fish as an animal are quite interesting.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, they're great.
But yeah, fishing is something that has passed me by.
Yeah, well, so we're both going at this from the point of view as the amateur who likes fish but not fishing.
Yes, we're coming at this as complete and utter novices. So to that end, we won't claim to know anything. Anything we talk about today is from recent research.
And what we'll expect is people to, apart from giving us a 5-star review, to leave comments to say, you got that completely wrong. That's not what it is at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're very happy to have those, by the way.
Certainly. We're on a progress of learning just as much as anyone else. If you would like to correct us, if you would like to give us additional information, please do.
Definitely.
We're open.
So let's start off. Simon, you're very good with the etymologies and the origins of things. What about the etymology and origin?
Right, so fishing, I'm not even going to bother doing etymology on fishing. it's fish with ing at the end, isn't it, really? Fishing is the art of, or the process of, catching fish, either for consumption or just for leisure. And therefore it encompasses an awful lot of different activities. So you might say to someone fishing, and they picture the leisure activity, standing near a river with a rod, catching fish.
Is that more sort of accurately angling?
That is more to do with angling. Right, so angling I do know a bit of etymology for. Angling, the word angle, as we would think of an angle, such as a triangle or whatever, is a Proto-Indo-European word, which I love just for that title. And it means a bend or a hook or an angle, as we would imagine it. And therefore the hook that you use in fishing has an angle on it, and therefore it's angling.
That makes total sense.
Doesn't it just?
Yeah.
That's also where we get the word ankle, because the ankle
that's
a right angle,
an angle as well.
Thing.
Yes, of course.
So that's useful. But yes, you say fishing to any different group of people and they'll picture different things. One person might picture angling, the sport.
Yeah.
You go to a fishing village and say fishing, and someone will instantly think, well, I'm going out in a boat with a huge net and I'm catching hundreds of fish to sell because I'm a fisherman, and that's fishing. So there are different sides to it. There is the industry of it, and there is the leisure of it. So hopefully we'll get to pick a little bit out of each and see what do you instantly think when you hear the word fishing?
I think of being completely bored stiff down by a riverside.
Brilliant.
With your rod dangling in the water.
Yes.
And sort of just watching the river go by and seeing your enemies float by.
Your enemies, that's great.
and not catching anything and going home via a fishmonger.
Fine. Okay, good.
What do you see?
Much the same. I love the idea of it. I love the tranquility of it. I live near the River Thames, and there are quite a few little tributaries and offshoots around here. You go for a nice walk down a little backwater, and you inevitably see someone sitting there all peaceful and calm with their equipment and their gear and their little tent and their tackle, and I can kind of see the appeal of it. I can kind of see, you've
a Zen-like thing.
Very Zen-like, and the equipment. I do know a couple of people who are keen fishermen, and they're always looking out for new equipment,
They
new
do
gear.
like their kit, don't they?
They love a bit of kit. And that side of it fascinates me. But the actual practice of sitting for a long time, often in the rain, often not actually being able to catch anything, it doesn't really appeal to me.
No.
Sorry,
me neither. However, those who do angle or fish, I have great respect for, because I can admire their patience and the meditative, the way they think.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look nice. I just don't want to do it. So, if we take fishing to its basic function, which is to say, people have always caught fish in order to eat fish, and at its very basis, before it ever became a sport or a leisure activity, that's what fishing was for.
Yes, exactly.
Mankind has been doing this for quite a long time. There have been fossils of fish found. That was a lot of Fs. Fossils of fish found far away from the sea, inland. And these fossils date back to about 500,000 years ago.
Okay.
So people have been catching fish for consumption for a very, very long time. In terms of equipment and how they did that, an archaeological dig in East Timor, which is sort of somewhere between Australia and Asia, they found fishing hooks made of bits of shell, which are somewhere between 15 and 25,000 years old. So people have been actively fishing, sea fishing, with proper equipment for at least that long.
Right.
And yeah, at its basis, that's what it is. You catch a fish, you eat a fish, you go back, you catch more fish. Presumably somewhere along the lines, someone has said, do you know what, this is actually good fun. I might just do this for lols, regardless of actually eating the fish.
Yes, because nowadays you can't really eat the fish, can you? You have to sort of throw them back.
Yes, that's a part of fishing that I don't quite get.
Me neither. But then, in the UK, 4 million people do it quite regularly.
4 million, really?
4 million people.
That's a lot of fishers, isn't it?
It is huge.
I've read that in America, obviously there's a lot more people who fish because there are just a lot more people. But in America, they spend $7.5 billion a year on fishing equipment.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. It's a great big hobby.
We apparently spend up to about £3 billion a year in this country on.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So we are, but so per capita, we are actually far more into it.
Actually, much more into it, yeah.
Interesting.
There's been some research into the health benefit, the
meditative state.
That one.
Is that one of your words that you have trouble with?
Meditative, yes.
I have issues with digital.
Digital. Okay.
Makes me sound drunk.
Okay. So the meditative bit, hey, of fishing is quite interesting. There's been some research. Obviously it promotes physical health through, schlepping all the stuff down to the river. It gives you like sort of resistance and stamina. Mm-hmm. And it also improves mental well-being. It's very good for your mental health.
Okay.
It reduces stress, encourages social bonding, because you talk to other fishermen about what they haven't caught. And there's research that says, and this is weird, that it's the second most relaxing in the UK's top 20 hobbies, beaten only by knitting.
Knitting?
Yes.
Knitting is the most relaxing hobby in the UK.
Yes, it is.
And then it's fishing.
And then fishing.
Do you know what? Coming from the point of view of someone who does neither, I would imagine that both of those would really stress me out to some extent or other. I can't picture either of those being relaxing, but then that's because I don't know how to do them.
Quite. I can knit, actually.
Can you?
I can. I need somebody to cast on and cast off, but I can do the middle bit.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do an episode about knitting one day.
Oh, yeah, we could do knitting, couldn't we? You don't have to catch fish with a hook or line. You can catch fish in all sorts of other ways as well.
Okay, such as?
Well, you can go catfishing, and I don't mean the modern use of...
That's different, isn't it?
I mean the way you used to catch catfish.
Oh, I see. Right.
And the way you catch catfish is by making yourself the bait.
Okay.
So what you do is you basically hold your hand under the water where there are catfish, and you make your hand alluring by putting some food in it or whatever. And the catfish swallows your hand and keeps swallowing you up until about your elbow. And then you pull your hand up with a catfish attached. And that's how you catch catfish.
I'm not certain whether to be intrigued or grossed out.
I will put video in the show notes.
Please do.
Which shows you how to catch a catfish.
That's very interesting.
It's very strange. It's called noodling. And in some states, noodling has been banned. But Native Americans were doing it long before the Europeans showed up.
Yeah, sure.
It's still a folk tradition along the Mississippi. And incredibly popular. But it is illegal in quite a lot of places now.
Huh.
Another thing you can do that doesn't require you to have lots of kit is tickling. I mean, I'm a great fan of tickling myself. I am very ticklish.
Okay.
Are you ticklish?
I'm not at all.
You're not at all ticklish.
I'm a really disappointing person to try and tickle.
So trout and salmon tickling.
I've heard of trout tickling.
Yeah, so trout tickling, what you do is you walk up to the trout very slowly.
Yes.
You stick your hand in the water and you give the trout a little tickle on the belly.
Right.
And what happens is that the trout goes into kind of a trance. It kind of goes, oh, that's nice. I really like that, in a trout voice. And it kind of just, it relaxes so much that you can just pick it up.
Wow.
And just pick it out of the water. It's mentioned in Shakespeare.
Is it?
Trout tickling. You can use it for salmon as well.
Right.
And you don't need any equipment. And unfortunately, I said that noodling for catfish is illegal. So is trout tickling.
Why? I don't understand this. It seems like the most natural way of doing of fishing.
I reckon that big angling has got the MPs sort of sorted out so that there are no laws that come in that stop people from buying more kit.
Right.
And so if you don't have to buy kit, it therefore is illegal.
pure supposition, folks.
Yeah. I mean, and one other way. You can also tramp on a flounder. Flounder tramping is quite popular in Scotland. And there's even a tournament in Scotland, the World Flounder Tramping Championships.
Really?
Yeah. So you wade through shallow, muddy water until you see a flounder, and then you stand on it. That's it.
Huh.
You don't have to stand. You don't stamp to do it harm. You just basically stand on it to hold it where it is.
Oh, I see.
I mean, technically, you could then pick it out of the water and eat it.
Yeah.
But it's in sports flounder tramping, you would just stand on it. The judge would come over and go, "Yes, you've tramped on a flounder," and then move on to the next one.
Well, how fascinating. Then there are things like spearfishing and
yes, of course,
all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Going ice fishing. I had a little look at ice fishing, and you go out onto a big frozen lake with a little tent. You sort of pull a tent out there. They're called ice shanties or ice shacks, just to give you a little bit of shelter from the wind. You get your ice saw or your ice auger, and you make a hole in the ice. And you can sit there and fish with a pole and line, or you can stand there with a spear. And these fishing spears are quite lethal looking things. They've sort of got several barbs on the end of the spear, and you just stand there completely stock still.
Yeah.
Often in the dark. Haven't found out why. I don't know whether the type of fish that you're going after don't like daylight, or I don't know, maybe it's to get yourself into the right frame of mind. But yeah, you stand there until a fish wanders past, and you chuck your spear into the hole in the ice, and ta-da! There's a fish.
Supposing the fish is bigger than the hole.
Yes, I suppose you would have to know what you're going for, and therefore what size of hole you need to create.
Yes, quite.
Another type of fishing, I've known about this for a while, but I've never really looked into it. Cormorant fishing. And
I've heard about this. This is in China?
In China, yeah. So they used to do it in China and Japan, and this used to be the main way that they fished for centuries and centuries. Now it's very niche, it's very artisan. They do it in southwest China, I think, and they sort of do it as an example of old-fashioned methods, and it's quite good for tourism. And I only first discovered this because I was reading a script for voiceover work a while ago for a company in China, and it was talking about different traditions and cultures, and it mentioned cormorant fishing. And a person goes out in a wooden fishing boat, and they have a perch on the front of the boat which a cormorant sits upon, and the cormorant dives into the water and catches the fish and brings it back out and drops it in the boat. And the fisher people, I'm never quite sure, are we saying fishermen these days? Is that too sexist?
Fisherfolk?
The person doing the fishing. They sort of train these cormorants from their youth to do this, and the cormorant dives into the water and picks out the fish. And I'd always wondered, what stops the cormorant eating the fish?
Yes.
Does it just know that it gets a nice big healthy lunch at the end of the day, and therefore it doesn't eat it themselves?
Yes, that's what I would do.
What they actually do is they put a collar round the bird's neck. Not a tight one, a loose-fitting collar, so it doesn't do the bird any harm in any way. But when a cormorant swallows a fish, it can swallow fish that are sort of 2 or 3 times the size of its throat, and they just sort of gulp it down because their throat expands. So you put a leather or a metal collar around the bird's neck, just the right diameter to stop the large fish going down. So it doesn't hurt the bird at all. It just practically means that it can't get the larger fish down its throat. It can eat the smaller ones so that it's not hungry, but the larger ones it doesn't get down. It yaks it back up onto the deck of the boat, and the fisher person takes the fish away. Ta-da.
There you go.
Interesting. Another method I discovered is kite fishing. I didn't know this was a thing.
Kite. I mean, I love kites.
You do, don't you?
I'm passionate about kites.
I knew that. Yeah.
But kite fishing, I've never heard of.
You can go fishing with a kite. So you get either from the shore or from a boat. You get a kite. It's a specific type of kite. You can't just use any old kite, but you get this kite on the end of a line, quite a long line, sort of 60 feet or so of line. The kite goes up into the air, and then it has drop lines, 1, 2, maybe 3 drop lines suspended from the line of the kite. And these drop lines go vertically down into the water with a lure on the end. And it means that you can cast over a further distance. So either you tether the kite string to the shore, in which case you can go further out into the water than you would with just a fishing rod. Or if you're on a boat sea fishing, you can cast the kite back towards shore and therefore get into the shallower waters that you wouldn't be able to get into with the boat.
That makes sense.
So these drop lines go down. They have a bob on the end that sort of floats on the water. When the fish takes a bite, the kite plummets and you reel the whole thing back in.
Wow. Okay.
Kite fishing. Never realised.
Yeah. You ever going to do that?
Nope.
I'm never going to do that.
Nope. I'm never going to try it. But it's interesting to have a look. There are videos and photos online, and it looks quite fascinating.
You mentioned lures there. I mean, one of the things about fly fishing is that, people love tying different sorts of lures. There are so many different kinds of lures that people have experimented with to see which works best, like made up of little bits of feather and little bits of shiny thing and all sorts of stuff. And somebody once decided that for a giggle, they would make $1 million lure.
Okay.
which was encrusted with gold and diamonds.
Oh, my goodness.
And he insured it for $1 million.
Wow.
Just in case he lost it, just in case it ended up in
just
a
in
fish.
case a fish accidentally swallowed it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And he couldn't get it back out of the fish. But it didn't actually work at all.
Oh, no.
This thing was like gold and platinum and diamonds.
Turns out fish don't have a taste for gold and platinum and diamonds.
No, apparently not. Apparently not.
Wonderful. And fly fishing is so cool because the things that you attach as the lure resemble flies.
Yes, that's right.
So you can actually go after a particular fish by virtue of what lure you're using.
What kind of flies they eat.
Yes, exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah.
People have boxes of flies, don't they? They have flies as like sort of decoration on their walls and things.
Yes. I can picture many an English country pub that has a box of fishing flies and hooks adorning the wall. There's a complete side story here talking about fishing equipment adorning the walls of pubs. There's a book called 3 Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome, which I read a little while ago. And these three chaps are on a trip up the River Thames. They go into a pub. They see this beautiful stuffed fish in a case on the wall, and they ask a man at the bar, who caught that? And he said, oh, I caught it with my trusty old rod. He leaves. Someone else comes in and says, no, I caught that with just a stick and a bit of twine. He leaves. Someone else comes in and says, oh, no, I caught that with my bare hands. And these three chaps, they take a closer look at the fish, and it falls off the wall and it shatters into 1,000 pieces, and it was made of plaster of Paris. So everyone was lying.
Yeah, lying being part of fishing.
It was this big.
Exactly.
And everyone knows exactly what gesture I just made with my hands, even though
this
is an audio podcast.
They do. Absolutely. There have been records of people fly fishing for quite a long time. I mean, there's references back in the 2nd century to fly fishing.
Really, that long ago?
It's quite long. Yes.
Wow. Around the 16th century in England, this sport really sort of seemed to take off quite a lot as a leisure activity. They started making stronger rods and stronger lines. Before spools came about, people used to wade out with a stick, and the line was just wrapped around the stick that they sort of held by their side as well as the rod. It wasn't until quite a lot later that you sort of first get the idea of winding your line in on a spool.
There's a technique to it, apparently, which I have no idea about.
Well, one step at a time, Bruce. You've mastered the tyre thing.
I can catch tyres. Actually, talking of catching tyres, a lot of strange things are caught by fishermen.
That was an enjoyable segue. Well done.
I mean, people generally catch sort of bits of metal and things. Where I live is near Regent's Canal, and you get quite a lot of fisher folk down there having a bit of a fish, but you also get magnet fishers.
Right.
People who use magnets to go fishing.
Okay.
And they use these very, very high-powered magnets. You often see piles of metal by the side of the canal.
Oh, okay.
And that's from magnet fishers who have gone to try and see what they can find under the water. So they come up with guns,
really?
Bicycles,
shopping trolleys.
Yeah, definitely shopping trolleys. But it's just money. There's loads and loads and loads of things that come out through through magnet fishers.
How interesting. That sounds like the modern day mudlarking.
Yeah, they can also occasionally find a safe.
Okay.
There's a guy in Rochdale who was fishing on the Rochdale Canal in Manchester who pulled up a safe full of stolen money. And there was no claimants for it, and there were thousands and thousands of pounds in it.
Wow.
And he donated it to the Rochdale Canal Society.
Oh, how fitting.
I know. I think that's good.
Now, I just want to know the backstory. Who has gone and stolen a safe, carted it half the way home, and then gone, you know what, let's chuck it in the canal?
The scenario that hits my head is that they were being chased by the rozzers, and they were on a bridge, and there was like rozzers on one side of them, rozzers on the other side of them. Went, let's get rid of the evidence.
Right, okay,
and
yes.
Just chucks it over into the canal.
We'll come back for it later. It's not going anywhere.
There are all sorts of superstitions about fishing.
Oh, are there?
So, for example, you never allow a dog stand near your fishing equipment.
Okay.
On the other hand, cats, especially black cats, good luck. So you can let cats walk all over your rod and line and stuff.
Even though cats are more likely to half-inch your fish?
Yes. The theory is you won't catch any fish if you take your fishing rods into the house just before you go fishing.
Okay.
Don't know why that is.
Right.
If you go fishing by boat, never look back once you've cast off. That's bad luck.
Okay.
Never take a banana with you.
A banana? Why not?
Well, because bananas spoil quite quickly, and so boats transporting them for trade purposes had to move quickly. And fast boats aren't good for fishing. So maybe that. Bananas attract terrible pests as they decompose. And when they start to turn bad, bananas release ethylene gas, which some people believe drives the fish away.
Oh, I see.
So bananas are bad news on a boat.
Okay, so that's a fairly reasonable practice.
I think so.
Not just a superstition.
Yeah.
Huh. I heard also that it's bad luck to go out fishing on a boat with no name.
I went through a canal on a boat with no name.
Was it good to get out of the rain? Oh, that's going to be a very, very few handful of people who get that.
They will get that. Of course, our listeners will definitely get that.
Wonderful. But even that in itself, I suppose, makes sense. If you went out on an unidentified, unmarked, unnamed boat, if you did get lost out at sea,
you're stuffed.
It would be harder to find you.
Yes.
So again, that may be a superstition, but it kind of makes reasonable sense.
A lot of these superstitions kind of make some sort of sense at some point. It's like walking under ladders. You know, if somebody drops something off a ladder, you're going to get hurt.
Yes, that's just rational.
Yes. Did you come across the biggest fish ever caught?
Oh, I love it when this happens. Invariably, when either of us go and find the definitive answer to what is the world's biggest, heaviest, longest, whatever, we come up with completely different answers. I have an answer. Do you have an answer?
I do have an answer. I'll tell you what, after 3, do you want the weight? Shall we do the weight of the biggest fish?
Sure.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
On a count of 3.
Yes.
1, 2, 3. 2,664 pounds.
Yes, we researched the same thing. Brilliant. Now, this was a great white shark.
Yep. So, this was back in 1959 in Australia.
Yes.
There's a bloke called Alfred Dean.
Yeah.
Who caught this shark, and he was rather proud of it.
I'm not surprised. I mean, you'd be quite impressed, wouldn't you? And there are photos. I started to go down this, what is the biggest fish ever caught, train of thought. And other than that, which is definitively the heaviest fish ever pulled in, there are actually world records per fish. So rather than just saying what's the biggest fish, you have a world record for the biggest marlin, the biggest tuna, the biggest ever this, the biggest ever that. I found a wonderful website called fieldandstream.com.
Oh, nice.
Which has the top 10 biggest fish ever caught. And these photos are just phenomenal. I'm looking at one right now. The world record for the biggest bluefin tuna, 1,496 pounds, caught in 1979 by a fella called Ken Fraser in Nova Scotia. And it just doesn't even look like a fish. It's a monster. It's twice as long as the man standing next to it. It's just ridiculous.
I think that's 5 times as heavy as I am.
It's a big tuna, isn't it?
Big tuna.
I mean, either I don't comprehend how large tuna are, or that is a ridiculously large tuna.
Tuna are very big. So you'll be able to see that in the show notes at factoraly.com.
Indeed you will. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Hearing us mention these few facts is only a little gateway to all of the things that you will find in our notes.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Now, whilst we're on the subject of records, I was having a look at lures and seeing the different collections that people have of lures. And the official Guinness World Record for the largest fishing lure collection goes to a young boy called Spike Yoakum, who lives in Illinois. And in 2016, he and his family got Guinness round to have a look at his collection because they suspected it might be quite big.
Yeah.
The previous record was a gentleman who had about 1,500 lures in a collection, which is quite good.
That's quite a lot.
The Yoakum family had a bit of a tally and realised that their son had collected over 3,500 lures.
Where was he keeping them all?
They had to build an extension, Bruce. They actually had to build an extension on their house to display these lures.
Wow.
And they're all in these great big cabinets. There's again, go on the show notes, there's a wonderful YouTube video of this chap actually having Guinness come round and count all of his 3,563 fishing lures.
Wow.
They're fascinating. They reckon that his collection, I'm surprised it's not more than this actually, but the collection is worth about $12,000.
Yeah.
At 3,500 lures, that's only $4
a
lure. That's not as much as I would have expected. But yeah, he's got the biggest collection of fishing lures in the world.
Amazing. I don't have any more facts.
I don't have any more facts.
We've been angling for facts.
We've been hooked on the subject.
And we've sunk.
We've cast our nets far and wide to bring in as big a haul of facts as we possibly could.
And we've reeled them in.
Some of the facts are a little bit fishy.
Dear. Well, look, thank you very much for listening all the way to the end. We do appreciate that. And if you'd like to hear more, then you can subscribe on your podcast player. You can like and tell your friends.
Do all of the above. 5-star reviews, please.
Absolutely.
So that's that then. That's the end of another episode of Factoraly. Thank you all for coming. Please come again next time.
Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.